Fun.
Some of you might know Ryan from his YouTube channel. He does a lot of the product openings that you might be familiar with, such as all the core sets, the side sets. He's usually there doing those early reveals. So he's here to showcase his deck that he's been putting together very slowly. And well, that's not really what you want to do turn one, is it, Ryan? How unfortunate!
Curse of the feature match. You're on stream. You've got this really cool deck, and you're just like, I will pass.
Oh no!
But at least we're going to get to see some Purrely action, which we've managed to avoid.
All right, there it is.
Now.
Is that mi amigo, my friend?
That looks like happy memory to me.
Happy memory.
So you can see there, he's pointing to his opponent's card, because some of the Purrely cards require you to target a card that's already on the field. So they all have quite a minor effect as their sort of initial effect, and then they all have the effect that you can discard a card to summon a Purrely monster from your deck. And then they all have an extra effect when they are attached to a Purrely XYZ, or they give the Purrely XYZ an extra effect.
Yeah, exactly. Well put. And Donnell actually special summons out from the deck the Purrely, which is the monster searcher. That's correct?
It searches a Purrely spell and trap that accept a quick play.
Accept a quick play, yep. An Ash Blossom comes down on the Purrely, which is, do you think that was correct, or do you want to just immediately use Ash on the quick play, do you think? Because it's not a cost to discard.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a cost to discard, so you can Ash the quick play, but then they don't have to discard a card and they might just have another quick play. It's very difficult to know when is best to interrupt the deck, because they have a lot of, all of the Purrely cards, as I mentioned, so there are 12 quick play spells that are commonly run, and they all have this effect. So Ashing one of them may not be so impactful. I mean, maybe you just Ash it and hope they don't have a second one, but we can see here that Donnell definitely did. And we had the follow-up in the form of my friend Purrely.
Yeah, so this is reveal 3, and your opponent randomly picks one, but if you're revealing 3 of the exact same card type, then that sort of guarantees you the search that you're looking for.
So he's adding the original Purrely. When that's normal summoned or special summoned, you can reveal the top 3 cards and pick a Purrely card among them and add it to your hand.
It's not a once per turn either, so what you will see some players do is special summoning a number of Purrelys directly from the deck and then excavating the top 3. Very similar to, I guess, like Salamangreat Foxy in a sense. And it just, which I think, is Purrely technically a fox? Is it a cat?
I think it's supposed to be a cat. I think it's supposed to be a pet cat.
Okay, well, I'm saying that there's definitely like some sort of correlating theme between the fact that all of the fox monsters excavate and add, but that's besides the point.
So this is Purrely, Purrely Beauty. So both of the Purrely main deck monsters, Lily and the original Purrely, you can allow you to access your extra deck, and they both require an appropriate quick play spell. And Purrely has to reveal one from your hand, the original one. So you have to reveal one from your hand that's the correct kind of type, if you like. So Purrely original revealed the Happy Memory, and that allowed it to upgrade into Purrely Beauty. And Purrely Lily requires you to have one in your graveyard of the appropriate type. And here we see, so the Purrely Happy Memory grants any Purrely it's attached to an extra effect. So in this case, the effect is to send a card from your side of the field to the graveyard, and then target a card your opponent controls and attach it to that XYZ monster. So the Purrely Beauty there sent Donnell's Book of Moon and targeted Ryan's face down Book of Moon. And then we saw the Book of Moon in response to set the Purrely Lily, preventing it from upgrading later in the turn.
And the benefit of getting so many materials attached is that you're trying to make like a really sort of heavy XC material monster, because once you upgrade that at some point, potentially with the trap card, into like the Noir, then you're going to have like an unaffected monster, which is with 5 materials minimum it's unaffected, or it's always unaffected.
Yeah, it has to have 5 materials to be unaffected by a card, yeah.
So you basically just want to make like a very, very large Noir, and then it is a quick play to detach to return a card that your opponent controls back to the deck.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting because it has a lot of effects for all of them spells that are attached to it, give it extra effects.
This is
it's interesting.
Okay, I was going to say this is not great from Ryan, but I think because we're setting before we're activating the polymerization scale of the Predaplant, whose name I will not attempt, I think that's indicating we're trying to go for a Chimera play, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I was trying to think of that. I don't think. Oh, it is a spell card. I was thinking like Chimera requires you to fuse him with the spell card, but while it's a pendulum, Scale is actually a spell card, so that does make sense. Because that requires you to have fuse with monsters from your hand and field.
Yep, there it is. Oh, wow. Not a great hand, but it's starting to slowly come together here. And Lebellion, Nibiru, as well as the set Tragedy.
This is very much an all-in play from Ryan, but I guess sometimes your hand makes you go all in.
Yeah, it's not great because we started with the set Singular Book of Moon, which would have been great if his opponent was pulling Kashtira potentially.
Yeah, but the beauty has its effect, which is once per turn you can detach a material and target a monster your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn, and that becomes a quick effect if it has a purely happy memory attached to it, which it does.
And I suppose the...
I'm hoping the judge will catch that because that was a second normal summon from Ryan this turn. He already set the Despian Tragedy.
That's something that I can't say I've never done myself with a Lava Golem. You know?
It's easy to do, like, because he set the monster. He just wanted, like, when you're doing like really uncommon lines with your deck, it's easy to forget what you've already done this turn.
It's a bit rough because he's quite far behind now.
Yeah.
Not being able to access that branded fusion, it's really just Chimera pass, and Chimera is normally very difficult to out because it's untargetable, but without the polymerization in the graveyard, it's sort of just a very slightly buffed Blue Eyes White Dragon right now.
It's a very buff guy though. 3/3 is just huge. I don't know. I guess there's like a benchmark for monsters. Like 3,000 is, it's that Blue Eyes White Dragon stat. Like monsters at 3,000 is like big, and above 3,000 is huge.
Yeah, those just don't exist, right?
Exactly.
Like, nothing beats the ultimate creature of destruction, except a Purrely potentially. Let's see
you
how.
Can make Purrleys very, very big.
Yeah, is it the delicious memory that gives the boost? Yeah,
exactly. So if a Purrely XYZ has a delicious memory underneath it, then it will gain 300 attack for each material that it has under it, including the delicious memory. So if you can get like 4, 5, 6 materials, then your Purrely monsters start to get very buff, very big. And if you have happy memory as well, then they can attack multiple times during the battle phase, so it can start to stack up.
Yeah, some really cool intricate plays you can do with the multi-attack abilities, which maybe we'll see, but it seems to be, I think, one of the higher rated ones. And just talking a little bit about the fact that he's playing so many hand traps, one thing that I noticed is he doesn't have a discard engine. You want to tell us a little bit more about how that works in Purrely?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually. I hadn't really noticed when I was looking at it because it doesn't stand out as missing. But obviously all of the Purrely cards, they have all of the quick play spells have an effect that when you activate them, you can discard a card to special summon a Purrely monster from your deck in addition to whatever else the quick play spell does. So some players like to run cards that are specifically very good to be discarded. So examples of that are like running Dark World monsters, the original kind of when you're discarded, you get this effect. And other players run cards like that's the card you like super don't want to see.
This is really unfortunate. Bricking game 1 and then getting met with the Ash Blossom in game 2.
This is like the thing that everyone says about branded. It's great if they don't have Ash, and that's what we were talking about the other day. It's like, how do you play around Ash? Well, maybe your opponent won't draw it.
But it looks like Donnell has drawn it.
Yeah.
And so what can you do?
Nice play from Ryan, at least, that you summon the Cartesia, and it's always good to do. You can summon the Cartesia before summoning Alaba, and that way, if your opponent wanted to respond with an Effect Veiler or an Infinite Impermanence on the Alaba, then you could chain the Cartesia, because it's got a quick play effect to fuse, and then the Alaba won't be on the field, and then you get to resolve it. Anyway.
No branded fusion resolving this turn, but with the new support offered by Cartesia, you are able to continue into the YuGiOhCardEU.
I'm not going to try and say it.
But it looks like Donnell might have a response here to it as well, which is, I suppose, maybe the other advantage. Wow, Imperm Ash. That's so unfortunate. Yeah, so, we were mentioning a little bit about the discard engines that you have the ability to play in Purrely. Donnell just opting to go for full engine and then the rest in pure hand traps, which I suppose definitely helps you going second when you lose the dice roll. So that's working out quite well. As we kind of mentioned, the best thing about the sort of Purrely quick plays is that they don't discard for cost. You could argue like discarding for cost sometimes can be good in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just sort of depends on the context.
Yeah, in this for this deck, like discarding for effect, it's got a couple of advantages. First of all, you can use like Dark World cards, and the other discard engine people often use is duel cards.
Yeah.
And because those actually just wouldn't work if you had to discard for a cost, right? Because they all activate when they're Shadow when they're sent to the graveyard by a card effect, and Dark Worlds when they're discarded by a card effect. So it's also nice, as we saw in the first game, like if Dunel had activated that quick play spell and had to discard for a cost, then it probably would have been ashed. Whereas at this, you can like wait and see.
And it would be a heavy cost as well to discard, you know, because you lose so much of that advantage, and without something like Dark Worlds and Shadow Beasts or Hedgehogs to recur that, it'd be really, really rough. Oh, I just remembered another discard engine that I've seen people playing, the Crystal Beasts.
Oh, I see. You'll run 3 of the bridge. Yeah.
I've seen that played a couple times. I'm not sure how popular it is these days, but...
Is that a Vanity's Fiend he just discarded?
Yeah, that is in his side deck.
I saw it in his side deck, but that seems to me a card that you would side in if you were going first.
Yeah, it feels sort of weird to bring in generally Floodgates for going second, because you not only do you have to either stop your opponent from playing, but you have to be in a situation where you can stop your opponent from playing, draw that actual card, and then establish it for turn 3, which is quite a heavy ask for going second, but might actually work out. Oh, there can be only one. How detrimental is that for Purrely?
This isn't something I've really considered. I've not seen this sided in.
Are they're all beasts, right?
I'm assuming they are all of the same, same type, but I haven't actually read all of the types.
I feel like this is essentially Vanity's Emptiness, right? Like, I mean, it's like playing dragons on there can be only one. That just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Unless I'm wrong here, he's checking his extra deck to see if something we can summon here.
This is a card I've seen in a lot of people's side decks, so I suppose it's got an extra coverage. As you mentioned, the dragons. So I spoke to Marcus yesterday, and he said it was important to him to play against super heavy samurai. So I guess if it's got all of this utility, it seems pretty strong. Kashtira as well. I think most of the main deck monsters are psychic, so it seems pretty annoying for a lot of decks.
One thing I've noticed about There Can Be Only One is it feels like a sort of more powerful than things like Gozen and Rivalry, in the sense that generally when you build a deck, it's an archetype, and archetypes tend to be of the same sort of typing and attribute, because I guess that just thematically makes sense for a deck. So things like Rivalry and Gozen don't usually hit a lot of decks, but There Can Be Only One is on the opposite end, where most decks, if they are the same type and of that archetype, then well, you just can't really do anything.
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting. I feel like sometimes it's great for you, and then sometimes it can be weird. Really kind of context dependent for sure.
Do you like to roll dice for random choosing in Yu-Gi-Oh, or do you prefer to just sort of like point randomly? And
if I'm just playing casually with my friends, I definitely just point. And some people will roll dice like in any situation. I think if you're playing like a proper game, it's nice just to roll the dice, just to be like everything like clean and clear. Because if you like point, you might have been able to tell. You don't want to like maybe tell that you could do it.
Okay, so Winged Beast plus Beast to overlay into some sort of rank 1, which might get you into Zeus. That's a plant monster, so all legal. And I think the most important thing is if you can establish an Xyz monster that can't be destroyed by battle, which is going to work out quite nicely here.
Oh, because none of them can be destroyed by battle with a defense position monster.
Exactly, which you could argue maybe was a bit of a misstep by Ryan, because if you have There Can Be Only One, then putting your monster in attack mode is maybe safe, because then you can't, it's quite hard to maybe have that foresight. So, okay, I'm going to flip this, then my opponent is going to attack with an Xyz monster and then Zeus me.
No, I totally agree. It is a bit...
I just love that we're going into like 5 different typing here. What is Zeus? He's a thunder,
Zeus
right?
is a machine.
He's a machine, of course.
I remember people like say this because there is like, it does have the effect that that no one ever seems to use. Is like when one of your cards is destroyed, then it can attach something from your grave deck or
Zeus'
deck.
secret effect?
Yeah. And one of the things people attach is the Infinitrack Goliath. So it is a machine. Yeah, it is something to keep in mind, because a lot of players by default will put monsters in defense mode when they can. Obviously, if they get attacked over, you don't take any damage.
I think Lightning Storm is also maybe giving people that sort of natural habit of putting monsters in attack modes.
In defense, yeah.
Yes, yeah, sorry.
But in particular, against Purrely, like one of its main game plans when going second, and to be fair, for a lot of decks, the main game plan going second is to access Zeus. And Zeus requires an XYZ monster to have battled. And so if your opponent's forced to attack with their monster, you may want to put yours in attack mode.
All right, here's Keeper of Dragon Magic, which is
Here we go.
We talked a little bit about this already, and I suppose what matters is that Branded Fusion is hopefully going to resolve this turn.
And Ryan's probably, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure the Granganor is a spellcaster, Keeper of Dragon Magic. Is it a dragon, maybe? I know it's got dragon in the name.
I'm fairly certain Keeper of Dragon Magic is a spellcaster. So if Guarnol is a spellcaster, then that's something we're going to have to get checked.
Maybe Granganor is also a dragon.
Should be okay.
I'm not. This is the thing, like, you don't really think about the types of the monster until it's relevant, and I suppose now it is extremely relevant, right?
I think the advantage of Branded specifically is that it works really well with There Can Be Only, because it's a whole mix of like fairies and dragons and all kinds of
spellcast. Yeah, it's got a bit of everything.
And plants as well, as we just saw Ryan pick up Instant Fusion, which as we kind of mentioned at the start, that is a sort of Predaplant style variant on Branded that he's running.
Yeah, searching Instant Fusion just feels like the most unbelievably powerful thing to do. And like, Instant Fusion has been a powerful card for a very, very, very long time, and it still is. And
yeah, he most likely isn't going to pair this with Magical Scientist, but it's close. It's as good as you get. It's the Predaplant, who is level 5. Not going to try to say the name. I'm really sorry. Predaplant names are just. Maybe we can get a botanist specifically on stream to give us some insight into this. But this is really good. It's it adds a Preda-P spell and trap card. So I think a lot of the Preda practice sometimes, but that's not actually what Ryan is running here. What he wants to do is, we talked a little bit about the combo before we started. He wants to add.
You're going to try and make me say the name. It's the pendulum scale that lets you fusion summon.
Exactly. The scale. So it's the polymerization, and he also has the effect that it contributes itself to special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck, and that's going to bring out Cobra, and Cobra gets Branded Fusion.
So it's a nice little line. It's an extra way of getting to Branded Fusion. It's some extra things to do, like that isn't Branded Fusion, because a lot of people's complaints about the Branded deck is that it's very vulnerable to Ash Blossom, but having more things to do that aren't just activate Branded Fusion is always a bonus. This Zeus is going to be devastating.
Yeah, it puts Ryan in a really rough spot here because it's kind of hard to force out the Zeus here, and so he has to sort of commit into the fusion before.
So now just being like super patient.
Yeah.
And at this point,
but you definitely want to Zeus like on activation of the skill, surely.
To be honest,
or like the activation of the effect.
You need to be careful here because I don't actually know what you can fusion summon at this point. Fusion summoning is a bit weird with There Can Be Only One, because you actually have to, like, unlike other types of summoning, with fusion summoning you have to know what you're going to fusion summon before the cards go to the graveyard. So you couldn't, for example, fusion summon...
Attempt to fusion a monster that's already on the field.
You don't send monsters to the graveyard. Yeah, exactly. So you can't try and fusion summon any of the types that are currently in play. I don't think. So it is a bit confusing, but Danelle not going to take any chances, anything funny going to happen, and just activate the Zeus, because why not? He might have been afraid of Draco's Stapelia coming out to negate his Zeus, which is a very reasonable fear.
Stapelia is a dragon, correct?
Draco's Stapelia? I thought they were all plants, but you know, this is really testing our...
I think they're different.
Testing our knowledge.
I think the fusions are different, and the main decks are all plants.
Okay.
Well, Ryan didn't have much of a play there as a follow-up, unfortunately. 4 material Zeus is a lot to deal with, and even just the single effect of Zeus, you know, with a field like that, with the scale, There Can Be Only One, and all the bodies, like, it's kind of got wiped away here.
Zeus has been an unbelievable card, like, ever since it's been out, to be honest.
I love Zeus. I really, really do. Like, anything that helps going second be stronger, I'm always a huge fan of.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's, like, really generic. And a lot of decks can use it. I agree with you. Like, it's a really cool card because it's got like counterplay as well, because you can like try and stop your opponent. As we mentioned, like maybe if Ryan had put his Granganor in attack mode, then this whole thing wouldn't have been happening. But here we are.
Yeah, it makes you consider and think about the fact, hey, my opponent's making a Nixie, which you know in some decks is like that just doesn't seem very good, and it's usually to fulfill the summoning condition of Zeus. Just slap it on top of an Nixie monster. Do you miss using Zodiacs with Zeus at all? I was a huge fan of that. Do you know how hard it is to disrupt just normal summon into Borbo? Like, there's no Omni Negate that stops that, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know? It doesn't use any effects.
And you just rank up like 4 times.
By the time there's like 7 Zeuses, yeah. As a Zeus was like, lots of abilities that you don't. You can use on the same chain as well, so it's unbelievably annoying to deal with.
So I'm not sure how familiar, or rather accustomed to, 8,000 damage, one-turn kills that Purrely can offer, but it's definitely going to be.
I think it
super
is a
controlled
bit of
here.
effort, yeah, to do that.
A big multiple delicious memories, or delicious is the boost, right?
Yeah, delicious is the boost. So if you have multiple, I think it does count for each one. So if you have like 3 delicious memory, then it's gaining 300, like 900, I guess, for every material.
Was that his reveal of Amigo? Sorry, my friend. I keep what?
Amigo. Have you been learning Italian?
It's the Spanish name of my friend Purrely. It's just I do love it. But anyway, I think you did search delicious specifically off of the my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we see the Dusk Dragon. I'm just going to call it the Dusk Dragon rather than pronounce its actual the original name of it. It's got an extra effect, which is while it's on the field or in the graveyard, if your opponent special summons a monster with a monster effect, then you can banish it to special summon a Despia monster.
It's a very
from your extra
specific
deck.
kind of niche fulfillment that you would have to remember there, but here it is, I guess.
It's quite. I think people special summon cards with monster effects quite a lot.
I suppose, yeah.
And it only has to be on the field or in the graveyard.
So does it summon any Despia from your extra?
Yeah, so there's only a couple people play, so this is Despia.
Do you think this is the best option?
People don't tend to play that many Despia. Because remember, Despia and Branded are different, so you can't summon any of the powerful Branded fusion monsters that people really want. So people only play like 1 or 2 just for this purpose, I think.
I think Plump has also attached the Branded fusion out of the graveyard here, so Tragedy is going to be able to repair that.
That's very sneaky. I like that. Yeah, it's one of those cards, like, I didn't notice it the first time I read it, that it could attach from either player's graveyard. But obviously when you play with it a few times, maybe you see someone else do it to you, you then realize that. Ryan there just chaining Despia Coertis, which should set the attack of all monsters that are not level 8 fusion monsters to 0. But I think this will not deter Danelle, because he can rank up that Plump into a Noir. And then it's no longer got 0 attack. He's just giving a good count there, being like, I have like 1 million materials.
I do quite like how many zones we're taking up here with a single Noir.
So Zeus has 0 attack, if I'm not mistaken, but I might be mistaken.
Just
yeah, he's just smiling there. I think he's just switched to attack mode and attack with a 0 attack monster.
For full intimidation tactics, I suppose.
And then the Noir, I don't know if my eyes are good enough. It looks like it's got 7 materials. What do you reckon?
It looks like 7, yeah.
7, so it gains 2,100 twice.
So we can do
it starts with 1,100.
We can spin once and still make sure it's unaffected, which is, I suppose, really important.
It's great, yeah. It's unbelievable boss monster Noir, like unaffected. Depending if it's got like sleepy memories, it can draw cards. If it's got pretty memories, it can negate cards. It can do, well, it can steal cards even. It can do everything.
Book of Moon comes down in the Zeus here to, I suppose, make sure that we can guarantee our fusion play here with Cartesia. Although this can be, oh no, never mind, yeah, it's not going to be able to do much.